I had a 1-year job in a high school as a substitute teacher for the year. And my husband was sick and in the hospital, so I was basically supporting the family. We had 4 kids. And we had to move back from where we were living so he could go to this hospital that could treat his very rare situation. And luckily, I got this job as a substitute teacher for a year. And as a substitute teacher with the regular classes, of course, they gave me the worst class in the school, which was freshman English. And in this class, there were like 2 true freshmen. All the rest were older kids. They were all poor kids. A lot of them were minority kids. And they were all boys. And some of them 16, 17 years old in 9th grade English. And I hadn't taught high school. I just, I'd been a college teacher up to this point. So I come in there, and they were so bad. They were so disrespectful to me and to each other, and they'd get up and they'd walk around. And the other classes were fine. They were just regular classes. And I thought, I can't take this anymore. This is just torture in hell. So I thought, what's going on? And I thought, okay. And I talked to the other teachers about it. And they said, don't bother. I mean, everybody knows these are losers. They're not going to get anywhere. So just send them to the principal's office whenever they misbehave. And I thought, 5 minutes into the class, the whole class is in the principal's office. So I thought to myself, well, what is it? What's going on? I said, I know what the problem is. I'm trying to teach and they don't want to learn. So because they said, don't even bother, because they just assured me these students that's why they're here, because
you mean the other teachers?
The other teachers told me this. In the teachers' room, they said, there are classes like this for these kind of loser types, and they have to stay in school until they're a certain age. But don't worry about it. Just keep the class quiet. And in fact, the principal had come in one day, and he had said, just keep them quiet. Don't let them make all this noise. So I said, okay. I come to class the next day, and I said, I figured out what the problem is. I want to teach, and you don't want to learn. Well, you don't have to. And I had these magazines, sports and automobiles and stuff. And I said, okay, if you don't want to learn, it's okay. You can just sit in the back of the room and read these magazines. You can even talk to each other if you do it quietly.
How many kids were in that class?
I don't know. There were about 18 kids in the class. Mm-hmm. And I said, anybody...
Were they all like 14 or 15?
No, they were like 16, 17. They were going to stay in school until they were 18, but they could never pass this class, so they kept taking it over. And it was just, torture and hell for them to be in that same darn class again. And only 2 of them were real freshmen. All the rest were these kids all the way from 13, 14, 15, 16, 17... or 14, 15, whatever. Yeah, all different ages, but most of them were the older kids. And I said, anybody who wants to learn anything about anything, just come up to the front of the room, and we'll do it. And I said, here, go ahead, just move. They were in these little tab armchairs, tab chairs. And I said, just go ahead, move front or back, whatever, it's okay. They just sat there staring at me. These guys, and they were all guys sitting there in their little chairs staring at me. And I said, it's fine. And they just didn't move, and they just kept staring at me. And I said, listen, and I thought, well, maybe they're embarrassed to move if I'm staring at them. I said, okay, I'm going to turn around, and you can talk to each other and just decide what you want to do. I turned around. Instantaneously, there's a shuffling of chairs and silence. And I thought, okay, this is it. They all moved to the back of the room. I turned around. They'd all pushed their chairs up against the desk. They hadn't even said a word to each other. Instantaneously, every one of them spontaneously had pushed his chair all the way up to my desk, and they're sitting there looking up at me. And I just started crying, because it meant they wanted to learn. So after I stopped crying, I said, so what is it you want to learn? And they said, we want to learn how to read and write. And I said, well, how'd you get to the 9th grade? And they said, they don't care about us. They just pass us along. Because they knew. They knew what those teachers had told me, that we don't care. We just pass them along. And they knew it. So I tried to teach them, how to read and write. I didn't really know how to teach people like that how to read and write. So I did my best, and I found out nobody ever had anybody read to them at home. They came from families. A lot of them were immigrant families. And people who had parents who hadn't gone themselves through high school. Not one of them had ever had anybody read a story to him. So I began to read to them. And they sat there just, like a little kid hearing wonderful stories they didn't know anything about books and reading. And here they were in the 9th grade. And nobody'd figured this out because they didn't care about them. The poor kids who acted rambunctiously in class because they felt stupid. And we know that's what feeling stupid is the most horrible torture a kid can feel. And and I gave them things I found in the workroom things for them to do. And I noticed that they were looking at sort of cheating, looking at each other's papers. So I said, this is back in the late 60s, and nobody had heard, I think, then. I hadn't of learning communities or working together, interactive learning. It was everybody. The factory model, you sit in your own little desk so that you can be trained to be a little factory worker. You become punctual and quiet and obedient and careful. And there they are, kind of can't do it, and they're looking. So I thought, okay, if you think somebody else can help you, you want to talk about it, get together. They started having small groups. And they talked, and they had feedback, and they were interested, and it was just, so I learned from them, how to teach. It was just.
I wondered where you got that.
Well, it was just seeing them trying to get help from somebody else, and I said, okay, help each other. And that was great. And they pulled their chairs together in little circles. And if the group was too big, I'd said, well, you got like 5 or 6 people there. If you only had, say, 3, could all have a chance to talk. So they had all these little groups. And it was just fabulous. And they were just the best students could be because I cared about them. And the class was just amazing.